Well, I'd like to welcome you to Reality Therapy Corner. We have our guest speaker today is Nancy Herrick. She is a senior instructor and consultant for the William Glasser Institute, which is now Glasser Institute for Choice Theory US. She's been teaching and training certification and programs for more than 3 decades. She is on the William Glasser, or she has been on the William Glasser Board of Directors and has been active in creating new programs and courses. She has co-authored Take Charge of Your Life course that's offered in more than 20 countries in 7 languages. She's a contributing author to the Get Happier Project, Curriculum for Glasser Quality Schools, Communication Skills for Paraprofessionals courses, and several other online courses. She is founder and director of Reality Counseling and Training Center. She provides mental health counseling and consulting services. She served public school systems as a teacher, special education teacher, a counselor, curriculum coordinator for 3 decades, with degrees in sociology, special education, and counseling psychology. Yes, she is amazing. She is now serving on the board of directors for the North Carolina Charter Schools and for Florida, a charter school there called Amazing Hope Academy. She's been instrumental in creating procedures, rubrics, and competencies for the numerous Glasser programs over the last 10 years. And today she is presenting on reality therapy, using reality therapy with resistive clients. Nancy, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you. So that all sounds like a lot of stuff, but I'm old. If you think about it, I am old. I have been around a long time. And if you're a person who is a continual learner, you're always going to be doing something. And so, your resume gets longer and longer. It doesn't mean you're smarter. It just means you're old and you have to keep busy doing something.
Yes, we thank you very much for your contribution to the Glasser Institute.
Yeah, well, everybody else on this page has created that much stuff for the Glasser Institute too, also. So I'm not the only one here. So, Vicki asked me to do some kind of a focus, and I said, well, I don't know. At the conference this summer in July, I went to Lucy Robbins' role play session, and she asked for someone to portray a resistant client, and I always went, oh yeah, good, yes, good, I will see this. So I got all excited, and this guy, I'll tell you what, he was about the most resistant I've ever seen in my life. He wouldn't even give him her name. So she couldn't get a name out of him. She couldn't get what he did, nothing. And she worked with him for about I don't know, maybe 10-12 minutes maybe. And at the end, she said it was a probation thing or parole thing or something. And at the end, she said, I am going to have to write a letter to the judge, because that's what the paperwork here says. And she said, did you understand that? And the guy shook his head. Yes, that was the first yes he'd given her. And she said, so I want to write this letter so that it's going to look good for you, so that you're going to get what you want from the judge. And the guy looked at her funny, because he hadn't given her any information. Every time she'd ask him a question, he'd go, I'm not answering that. I'm not telling you that. I don't have to tell you that. And all those kinds of answers. So anyway, by the time she said, what am I going to put in the letter? He says, I don't care. She said, I could put on here that you were totally cooperative. You answered every question. And he's kind of like sitting back. He did answer every question. He answered it with, no, I won't answer that. He answered every question, not the answer she was looking for. But at the end, we all just kind of laughed, because he was so resistant. And yet she had a letter that said he came, he was there on time, he was cooperative in answering every question. I mean, there was not anything negative in that letter that she was going to send to the judge. And yet she'd gotten almost 0 out of him. So we were talking about, can you really force someone to answer your questions? Can you make someone change? Can you change an attitude? Can you change the other person if they don't want to change? And of course, the answer we all know is, no, you can't. So, but what can you do with people who are so resistant? And if we think about it, I'm going to ask you guys some questions because I don't want to just do all this talking, but if you think about it and you understand choice theory, what's one of the main premises of choice theory? Whose behavior can we control? You guys answer me. I want everybody on
Me,
mute.
Our own.
my own.
Okay, your own. Okay, what about other people? Can you control other people?
No,
You can influence them, but you can't control.
Yeah, you can influence them, maybe, but you can't control them. Okay. Can you encourage them?
Yes.
Maybe if they want to be encouraged. If they don't want to be encouraged, they'll take it a different way. How do we know whether or not we have any impact or any influence on someone?
would it
Well,
be?
I had a guy give me a call the other day
Mhm.
who I'd had in my classes years ago in my domestic violence class. He called up and he said, just wanted to tell you that we're doing good. He says, I've been sober for 2 years, got a job, got training and got a job, and I'm doing okay. My wife and I have been married for 9 years now. He says, took me some time to find your number, but I found it.
Yep. So you may not know immediately, but eventually it does come around sometimes or most of the time.
Because they become ambivalent about their decision.
Ambivalent. So you mean they're not concerned anymore?
No, they may start like asking questions or start deciding to be ambivalent about changing
Okay.
and opening up more.
So how does that come about? How does that get created? Is it
By
just
me focusing on them and not focusing on myself, like relating to what they're telling me and saying it back to them and how they feel about it.
okay? And would you be talking if somebody is very resistant, like this guy that Lucy was working with, wouldn't give her any information? Would you try to find out? Would you try to pry into what was going on, why they wouldn't talk or any of that?
What was the circumstance and
Well,
what did that person say?
She was a court-appointed attorney or court-appointed counselor that he had to talk to before he could go back to court for his probation.
So I would say you're concerned about what's going on or start reflecting in that way.
Okay, well, he wasn't going to reflect, so he wasn't going to give her anything.
Yeah, I was gonna text. I was just gonna say we text Bobby.
Is that somebody talking?
It's more like having empathy.
Oh, right.
Okay. So what do we know that people are always what's motivating their behavior? Whatever their behavior is. What motivates their behavior?
Feelings,
I don't know if you like that one.
thoughts.
Okay,
Their
that's our
their
behavior.
need-
What motivates it?
Needs motivate behavior.
Power, freedom, belonging.
Okay, our needs. Okay, so our basic needs. And how will we know what they are if they won't talk to us?
Well, I don't know that we can know what they are, but we can, at least we can induce that what we think they may be by their answers. The fellow that's not talking, that's setting up this great wall, he obviously has some big time power needs. He probably is very fearful, and fearful, I think, in the Glasserian way of thinking, is the fear or the threat of not getting one's needs met. So you could assume that freedom, the threat of freedom, was playing at some point, but I probably power would be, I think, the overriding need that I could offer.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, probably this guy had high need for power, and because he was really controlling the whole thing, and maybe a high need for freedom so that he was to be free from any more punishment. I mean, he was already in the court system, so he'd already had plenty of punishment. So so when people have fear and no relationship, do you think they're going to open up? It's going to be hard to get answers, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So building the relationship, and that means maybe sharing more of yourself than prying into who they are to begin with. But as you begin to share yourself, and maybe Glasser says there's 6 things we need to do to help people to be able to work with us. You remember those 6 things? The thing, who I am and what I stand for.
Mhm. What
Okay,
I'll do for you and what I won't do for you, what
that's
you'll
right.
do for me and what you won't do for me.
Exactly. So if you kind of lay that out, it sort of makes a level playing field, doesn't it? And so then they know, they have some information about you and what you're going to be asking them. So, I mean, they don't know the questions you're going to ask, but they know that there's a level playing field. Here's what I will do for you. Here's what I will not be able to do for you. Here's what I would ask you to do for me. And here's what I won't ask of you. So in that, when you start with those 6 pieces and lay that out, it helps to begin to build that relationship. And they can see that the playing field is pretty clear at that point, that you're there not to, to cause them any pain or any hurt or any displeasure or any more difficulties than they're already in, but to be, as a counselor, on their advocate to try to help them to work through it. So, and then we also talked about knowing about the needs. We might not know what their needs are. We know they've got them. And so if we can share something about our needs and about our vision of this situation, this counseling situation, or whatever we're in conversation, they can begin to maybe evaluate their own. Maybe they won't say anything or speak out loud, but they'll begin to maybe evaluate their own. So
Nancy, can I interrupt?
yeah.
You made you had a question earlier, and I had kind of a moment of an aha moment when you were talking about how she responded to the client. I'm going to be writing this letter, and this is what I'm going to be saying. At that moment, what occurred to me was she was developing a very positive relationship with that client. She didn't say he was negative, he was resistant. She didn't put any of the 7 caring or deadly habits out there. She basically gave this man an opportunity to see himself as participating, as being there, as helping and doing what he was told. I can't imagine the smile on that guy's face. Maybe he didn't smile, but to recognize that Lucy got him. She really understood him, and that's phenomenal. I hope to be able to use that further for myself in my own work, because I work with a lot of resistive clients. I love that. I just wanted to share that. That was an aha moment for me when you were telling the story.
Yeah. So when Dr. Glasser used to tell a story in his presentations about going to visit schools and having the kids come up on the stage, and he would interview students in the afternoons after his talk in the morning. And he said to the children, one time, it was in a high school, I think in San Francisco somewhere or something like that. And he said, I'm going to send a letter home or a note home to your folks telling them that I was very happy that you were able to participate and you were very cooperative with and helped me in my presentation. And one little girl came over to him and she said, don't send a note home to my folks. And he said, well, the note will all be, you can read it if you want to when I get it written. He said, it's going to be about how I was so thrilled to have you up on stage with me and how cooperative you were and how much the audience learned from you. And she said, don't send a note to my parents. And he said, well, he said, I won't say anything negative. He said, didn't you have a good time? And she said, yeah, but don't send a note to my parents. And so he said, well, can you give me a reason? And she said, because my mom and dad don't read, and they'll see a note and they'll think it's bad, and I'll get a whipping or I'll get detention. So he said, okay, I'll give you the note and you can throw it away. So don't put anything in writing that could hurt somebody, because you don't know what could happen on the other side. You don't know what could happen to it later. So only put down what is going to be beneficial for someone, that's going to be helpful to someone, and leave the rest out. If we didn't have all these huge, long, I mean, I've worked in schools for years and worked in special ed for years. We have all these long histories and long files for these kids who are in special ed, and 3/4 or more of it is negative. It's all what they can't do, what they are lacking in, what their weaknesses are, how they're behaving poorly. It's all negative, and we don't need to put that down, because when you meet a child, he's going to show you the best face he can to begin with, and take it from that. So if you're smiling and you're pleasant, and I know Steve has a good time with this, he has hand slapping with the kids and and fist punching and so forth, and they're going to show you their good side. And if they do, you've got something you can write that's good. You don't need to write all the negative side, all the other people's perceptions of this kid. So anyway, I know special ed is a whole different kettle of fish, but
Nancy,
yeah.
Your questions were very, for me, very thought provoking. What do you know this and that and so forth, and it got me thinking. And so a person is coming in. I'm in a helping, consulting, counseling, supervising scenario, and somebody's coming in to see me, voluntarily or adjudicated. I've never met them. I don't know what gender they are. I don't know name or anything. What do I know about them? If I believe in choice theory, I know a lot. I know even if they volunteered, they may be hesitant to talk. Okay, they may be guarded. It may be, they may be uncooperative. They may not be happy about being there. They've got needs. They've got something in their life is not the way they want it. Their scales are out. I know an awful lot about them before I know anything specific, because it's just such a good model. And if they're not talking, I just say, I don't know about you, Roseanne, but a lot of times people coming in here, even in blah, blah, are a little hesitant. They're a little uncomfortable. So you're showing what I call it pre-empathy. They haven't given me anything that I can specifically verbatim empathize to, but I'm empathizing with their situation because I know it's pretty common. A lot of times people are uncomfortable. And so I like to tell them a little bit about myself, a little bit about what I do, but it's just, I saw a role play one time. I wish I remembered who, or I don't know if there was a video, but the idea was that the client would not purposely not reveal the specificity of the situation. And so the counselor, a skilled practitioner, is asking, well, how long has this been going on? We don't know what that is. Oh, it's been on here, and what kind of things have you tried to make things better? I mean, all the questions and all the exploration were there without even knowing what the issue was. And it was a wonderful model, kind of a generic template for the use of reality therapy in the process.
So I like what you said, Wenda. We know a lot of things about them before they walk in. We know that they're trying, no matter what they're doing, they're trying to do the best they know at that moment with the information they have to satisfy their needs. Okay, and match their pictures in their quality world. So we know they've got a quality world. So if you talk to somebody about their quality world, is this something that most people enjoy talking about, or most people would not want to talk about? What do you think? Okay, thumbs up. A lot of people are saying thumbs up. So if you're asking people or talking about your quality world and asking them about theirs, those are things they like. Those are the things that they're comfortable with. Those are their values. That's their belief system. And that's who they want to be seen as. So if you move to that quality world and talk about their quality world, you don't have to talk about the situation that brought them into the counseling setting, or why they're here, or who sent them, or are they here voluntarily or not. If you talk about quality worlds, you're going to get people to start to open up. And this is the way you can build your relationships. So build that relationship, because you can't, without the relationship, you're not going to go anywhere with any of the questions, whether they're choice theory questions or any other modality. Okay. So you've got to get rid of, to build the trust and get rid of the fear. And the fear can come from a lot of different things. So when someone's resistant, many times they fall into that fight. I'm going to fight back, or the flee. I want to get out of here as soon as possible. I don't want to say anything until I just get myself out of here, or freeze. I'm not saying anything. I'm not giving you anything. So those are and that's when they move back to that brainstem, and they're in that survival mode. So if you're talking about mind shift, they're in the protective mind shift. They're not in the mind shift of growth and learning and working through things and cognitive consciousness. So you're not going to get anywhere when they're in that fight, flight, or freeze. So that's the first thing to think about. Can I help to move them into their quality world? Maybe talking about mine or theirs, or things we both like, or things even in the room that are pleasant, whatever, so that we can start to build some trust and some relationship. So I was going to talk a little bit about, we know we got to have the relationship. We know we got to have, there's got to be trust. We know we have to be able to work through their quality world, and not necessarily the reason they're there or the problems. Often people are coming in, the more resistant people are coming in because somebody sent them, usually, and they didn't want to be there. So I have 2 or 3 different little strategies that I use, or little tools, I guess, that I use. And one would be, if somebody came because they're there in counseling, they didn't want to be there, somebody told them they had to come, like probation officer, parole, it could be their physician said they wouldn't treat them anymore if they didn't go to a mental health counselor or something. Okay, so they don't really want to be there. So I would say, to get to their quality world, my first question, or one of my early questions, might be, where would you rather be? Okay, when I say that, what am I doing? I'm moving it to, once you talk back to me again, I'm moving it to what? Where would you rather be?
I was thinking that you're moving the conversation back into their quality world.
Back into their quality world, and then have a nice discussion about that. Well, let's see, what would you be doing, and how would it be better for you than being here in counseling? Okay, we're setting the environment where we don't have to talk about the problem yet. Let's build a relationship and build some trust. Okay, so where would you rather be moves it immediately to their quality world. And don't just drop it and leave it, but spend some time there. That's where we need to start to be able to talk to you and not feel like they're in a threatening situation. Okay, another one that I use, I call that one the rather be. Okay, another one I use, and I call this one what do I call this one? I'm trying to think. The credit card. Okay, and I call this one the credit card because you need to have some trust, you need to have some credit with the people. Okay, and when in choice theory and reality therapy counseling, we know that we're not there to hurt anybody. We're only there to be of assistance for them to come to some kind of conclusion or some kind of idea that they want to change in their life or attitude change or whatever. So we can give them the credit card. And the credit card is, if everything we do here helps you in this situation, or helps for you to feel better, or helps however, whatever you want to say, if everything we do here helps and nothing we do here makes things worse for you, would you be willing to talk with me a little bit? Okay, so that I call it the credit card, because you're swiping out. If everything helps and the opposite, nothing is going to make things worse. Swiping it back. Remember when you used to swipe the credit card on that little thing and it made an impression of it? Now we just tap it, but you used to have to swipe it out and swipe it back. Okay, so it could get the mimeograph copy. All right, so everything we do helps, and nothing we do here is going to make your situation worse. Would you be willing to talk? And often that's enough to start the conversation moving. And then you can also, you can also add to that a little bit. You can say, and if we get talking about something and you feel threatened, or you feel like we're going in a direction that could be harmful or hurtful to you, tell me immediately, and we'll change. We will change direction, because I do not want to do anything that's going to make your situation for you worse. So, and then if they do say, I don't want to go there, say, we're changing the topic, and change immediately. Go with them. Okay. So that's the second one. And the third one is, remember I said at the beginning, we know that people are doing the very best they can with the information they already have in their total knowledge. Okay. So when people are making mistakes, or they're getting into trouble, or they're not having good relationships with other people, or they're not doing well at work or whatever, and they're doing the best they can with the information they have, what do they need?
Information.
Information. Okay. So my third one is an information one. So if I can help you to understand what it is that's causing this problem for you, and give you some new information that might help, would you be willing to talk with me for a few minutes? If I could help you understand, and this gives you, now what's going to follow this is teaching a little bit of choice theory and control and behavior modification. Okay. If I could help you to understand why you're finding yourself in this predicament or in this situation and not able to figure out a way out, and I could give you some new information, would that be helpful? Okay. So I've gone to, I'm not going to pull up my share screen, because Wendell's got the chart right behind you. But if Wendell, if you can kind of pull back just a little bit so we can see your chart. So the new information is coming from where? Coming in from, if it's coming from me or I'm giving them information, it's coming from the outside world, the real world. Okay. And I'm going to have a new perception of it. So it's going to come through my sensory system. I'm going to have a new perception of it. Okay. All my senses. And then I have to evaluate, is this going to be helpful or not to me? Okay. So once I have that information and I've evaluated it, I put it on the scale and decided, then I have that total behavior box. You see that total behavior box at the top of the screen or the bottom of the screen, the little box with all the wavy lines in it. Not just the car, but the box with the wavy lines.
Yeah.
So the little box. Okay. So that little box has 3 different kinds of information to go for, to try to gather what I'm going to do about this situation. Has organized behavior I know how to do. Has reorganizing behavior I've heard about or have thought about, or now I have new information about. And then behavior that I don't even know it exists at the moment, but it's going to come to me. My creative system. Okay. With new information, it shifts where you are in that behavioral system box. If you're going only with the old information you have with no new information, you're going to be only going through the first two parts of that. And that'll be organized behaviors. I've done it before this way. I'll do it again this way. I don't know why it's not working. And you're going around the circuit over and over. With old information, you might think about other things, but you decided it's not going to work this time. And so you poo-poo it and you go back to your organized behavior. So you're not allowing yourself to move to that creativity, to adding new behavior, which is going to bump you down to that reorganizing the behavior you already have, the knowledge you already have, with the creativity of something new coming in, whether it comes from your brain or whether it comes from somebody else's brain. Okay. So we always have those three places to go when we're trying to decide what to do, make decisions, change our behavior, change our thoughts, whatever. We always have those three. And if we don't have new information, sometimes we won't ever get to that, allow that creativity to open up. So just ask him that, if I could help you to understand why you're in this situation or what's going on for you in this situation, and I could give you some new information, would you be willing to talk? It'll break one of those three will almost always break the resistance.
How come you use if and not when?
Because you're asking them if it's permissible for you to do this. If they're resistant, you can't just say, I'm going to tell you this. They're going to just resist it. But if you say if, then it's up to them to make that decision. So it opens the doors for them to decide. It gives them the choice. Because they can say, no, I don't want to know anything about it. Okay. So let's go back to, either, just shooting the breeze or talking about what you'd like to talk about or whatever. But if you want some clarity, if you want some change, and you may not say that to them until they've said, I don't like what's happening. I want it to change. Well, then that might be your tool that you would pull out and use. If I could give you some understanding about why it's happening this way. Okay. I don't know that I can give them the information that's going to be useful or not. I can, because I understand choice theory, I believe that I have a little more understanding because I know that it's either a relationship that's not working, it's one of their behaviors that's not helping, or that's pushing people away from them. Maybe it's their disconnecting habit they're using, or maybe it's not understanding that there is a difference between connecting and disconnecting. I can teach them a lot of things about choice theory that might be helpful if I talk to them for a few minutes. So
Nancy, the
yeah.
only thing is, every person here, I don't know that much about Greg, but Dr. Tom said a while ago, every one of us has a history of a lot of success sharing choice theory. It's not like, okay, I shared this with 500 people and 7 of them found it helpful. 500 people, 483 found it helpful. That's our absolute track record. People are just astounded. So, I'm going in with confidence. There may not be a gluing together with this person and what have you. But even Tom said people came to him, wrote to him. My wife and I went to a drug and alcohol conference in Atlanta, and we're on a break, big conference people, and you're lots of people milling around, and someone from across the way says, Dawn. And Dawn looks over, and this woman starts running over, and she's dragging this guy with her. Oh, Dawn, it's me. And she gives her name because it'd been years. It's me, blah, 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 so-and-so. Hey, honey, this was my counselor when I was at the treatment program, 5 years ago. She saved my life. And so as we talked about earlier, you don't always know, except the skilled, knowledgeable choice theory practitioner has a fairly accurate self-evaluation. If I say to you, Steve did the keynote presentation at the St. Louis conference, okay? How did your presentation go? I thought it went pretty well. I saw a lot of people doing their heads. I felt like I was on. We have a good self-evaluation. We're pretty much on the track. I find it very helpful to hear from other people. I got a text from a woman the other day who's taking tennis lessons, and she was so intense on working everything, but she sent me a text and she said, I had so much fun today. And I would have missed the fun part of it. You know, I knew it was helpful to her, but the fun part. So the feedback from others for me is greatly appreciated. But I also have my own, my self-evaluation too. But,
So those are really my 3 key tools that you can use. Not saying they will all be useful with every client. You have to pick and choose. I heard Lucy use at least 2, maybe even all 3 when she was doing that counseling with that resistant person. But we know that because of choice theory, we understand the theory. We can help people by giving them new information. So has this worked for anybody? Like, I know it's worked for me in lots of different times, but has it worked for anybody? Anybody else ever used any of these techniques?
The rather be one is a good one. I can use that frequently. The credit card one, I probably need to use more often. And every now and then with a really, really tough resistant client, I do use the information one. If I can help you understand, would you be willing? And, sometimes I have to be careful even saying if I can help you understand, because in their world, they may feel like they understand. So I may even change the wording a little bit to, could I offer a possible different perception? And they kind of look at me like, what? I mean, what you're saying is valid, everything. What if I can offer you something different? Nancy, I had my hand up because Megan, before she left, had typed in there that in the book Reality Therapy, there was one client that was shut down and the therapist started talking about tattoos on the client. So shifting the focus just to open them up. She wanted to share that back about 10-15 minutes ago when you were talking about examples. I thought it was excellent. It's true. Sometimes we don't even, hey, where's that tattoo from? Or what's that tattoo from? Meaning we building that relationship again. That's using the reality therapy. I'll put my hand down now. Sorry.
Yeah. So and opening them up, is what would you like to be talking about, or where would you rather be, or what would you like to talk about, or and like with little kids in school, for instance, they get sent to the principal or sent to the counselor because they've been using inappropriate behavior in the classroom. And if they come in there and their heads are down, you don't want to try to talk to them when their heads are down and they're feeling bad and they're really feeling guilty and stuff. You want to lighten it up so that they can start talking to you and they'll start giving you their side of the story. And then you can see a whole different picture sometimes. And you can help them to understand maybe why the teacher was upset. So they work really well with the little kids too, but you can't just start with, well, what's the problem? Well, what did you just do? Then you're into more negativity and they don't want to talk about that. They're afraid that they might get punished. So
Nancy, it's interesting. A lot of beginning people exposed to choice theory, reality therapy, whether in teaching or counseling or whatever, big brothers, big sisters, that sort of thing, would have the idea that dealing with resistant clients or tough people like corrections, would be, oh my gosh, that'd be so hard. As it turns out, it's actually relatively uncomplicated and quite effective. I mean, as a reminder, Glasser was at the Ventura School for Girls for
Mhm.
7 years. That's where he developed reality therapy. And I took a lot of his stuff and I learned stuff myself. Actually, I started teaching race relations seminars in the Air Force. You all have heard this story. I did 500 race relations seminars for 10,000 people in the Air Force between the years 1972 and 1983. I mean, decades before all the issues now. Okay. And somehow, and I didn't meet Glasser till 75 in Germany. So I didn't get this from him. I give myself credit. Now these seminars were mandatory. In the military, you do not dare miss, oh, I'm sorry, I slept in, or I forgot about it. No, if you're scheduled to be somewhere, you're there. Of course, they've got lots of things. So these were mandatory seminars. Now, race relations seminars in the 1970s, people were not happy about this. Okay, so they come in. What time does this class get over with anyway? What time did they tell you? Try not to take anything over. Well, they said it was 8 to 4 today and tomorrow. Well, yeah, that's the information I got. They told you right. Ah, that's a long time. Yeah. Sounds like you're not that happy about being here. Empathy skills 101. Yeah, well, I work in the jet engine shop, and we got important. Are you in the? I happen to know you're working on the JP-57 on the B-52. Yeah. Well, that's a critical job in the Air Force. And I said, well, if you'd rather not be here, why don't you're welcome to leave.
So you were validating him.
Yeah, I thought it was mandatory. It is. Yeah, but I'll just tell you what, this class is tough enough for me as it is with people who don't want to be here. So if you don't want to be here, I'm not going to say anything bad about you. When they call and say, hey, what happened? Was Williams there? Well, he was here, but he left. I'm not going to badmouth you. Yeah, but what will happen? I don't know. They may take disciplinary action. Well, I guess I'll stay. I said, okay. So you're moving into them making choices, but you're not resisting their, stuff. But and
you're
so
building, but Wendell, you were also building a relationship with him.
yeah, it's just marvelous finding ways to as they say, turn down the heat. Kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I can't make them change their thing. Here, I'm math oriented. You all have heard me say this before. If I behave in the connecting habits ways, I increase the probability that other people will choose to be cooperative.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone, but I increase that probability. If I operate in the disconnecting habits, I greatly increase the probability that people would choose to be oppositional. It's just that simple. So I work this way and get closer and closer, but I like it. So you tell the person in probation, well, this thing sucks. Yeah, maybe all these damn. I said, you're right. I said, I don't have the latest update. The last time I looked, we had 73 of these rules that you have to follow. I mean, it's just lists of rules. It's a lot. As if you don't have to be here. I thought it was mandatory. It is. Yeah. Well, what happens if I leave? I'll send a letter to my boss. Or send a letter to the judge. My understanding is that you were happy as could be when they gave you probation rather than locking you up. And as quickly as possible, we're turning to them understanding, well, educated that they made the choice to walk in. What brings you here today? They sent me. I didn't, I didn't see anybody drag you in here. You walked in. I mean, you look how you cut through all that stuff. It's phenomenal with resistant people.
So
Just is.
yes, Wendell, something you said sparked me to remember that when I'm working with resistive clients, and they really don't want to be here, I'll ask the men, especially, what have they told you you need to do in order to complete probation or community corrections or DCS requirements successfully? And then they
Mhm.
tell me, I said, is that something you're wanting to do to complete the program successfully? And sometimes they look at me like, well, that's a stupid question. Of course I want to complete it. Okay, so who's in control of getting all this done? And then it's like an aha light bulb goes on. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm here to help you be successful.
My job is to help you.
Right. I'm here to help you be successful if that's what you want. Um, I won't stand in your way of failing either. And then they start laughing because I'm like, oh, no, I won't stand in your way of failing. Probation's the one that set these requirements up. But if you want to fail, we can talk about how to do that.
You don't
Pretty
need my
simple.
help. Yeah.
And so sometimes they lighten up when they recognize that you're a human, that you have a little bit of sarcasm, you like to have a little bit of fun, that you're respecting them regardless of what they've done. And I tell people, Nancy, you asked earlier, what else have people done working with resistive clients? For me, I share with them, look, what got you here, what you did that got you here has everything to do with why you're here. We can either focus on that, or we can focus on helping you get out of this situation and doing the things you really want to do. And it's like, you mean you're not going to bring up my past? You're not going to make me talk about everything? I said, if that helps you, fine. If that doesn't help you, no. So giving them that choice of, do we dwell on why I'm here? Or do we dwell on what got me here? Or do we dwell on how, and do we talk about how I can move on and become healthier individual? And a lot of times the 7 caring habits come up at about that time.
Mhm.
So that's something, Nancy, that I have done with resistive clients. Go ahead.
Yeah, but even just having that, a little poster that shows the connecting habits and disconnecting habits out in front of them, you don't even have to say anything, because if they're resistant, they're going to be looking at everything around the room trying to figure out how they're going to get out of there.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to do too. So
Steve, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
If I could, just for a second, this conversation just triggered a thought that was a quality world picture of mine now. I was working with a little 8th grader, the boy that very resistant, very bright, but very resistant. Was having real trouble at home, and so wouldn't say much at all. So I knew this was going to be a longer kind of thing. It would last over, some sessions. So I just was fishing for quality world picture in what he would say. So if there was anything that he did say, I would definitely take a note of that. And one thing he talked about, surprisingly to me, about his cat. He really loved cats. Actually had 2 cats. And this is an 8th grader. What 8th grade boy is going to tell you he loves cats? I mean, so this was a big breakthrough. So I found he didn't get too much in that first session, or second, whatever it was. But I knew a friend of mine who fostered little kittens, right? So when I asked her, could I have this kitten, for a while, and she said, anytime you want. I said, well, I think I'm probably going to want it on a regular basis. That's fine. So for the next, I called him in out of class, and he came in with his mopey old smile, and I sat down, and I had this kitten there, and it changed everything.
Oh,
It changed everything. And so he sat there, you know, petting the kitten and that sort of thing, and just opened up, and it just was kind of like, you know, the floodgate. And from that time on, every time we scheduled one, I had that cat. It was fun.
Yeah.
But you know, so I guess the bigger picture lesson is that, you know, if you follow those quality world pictures, you know, you probably will hit upon something. You know, it might be Tolstoy, or it might be roses. You know, you never know. But that could be a gateway.
Does anyone else have a suggestion they've used or an example that they've used with resistive clients? We've got about 8 more minutes to go.
So, okay, so I'm going to pull up another little thing here. One thing. So, whoops. Oh, my words are not in the right place. Oops, that's not good. Anyway, okay, so I talk about, when I'm talking with people, I talk about the keys they have for change. And my labels are all over here on the side on this slide. I don't know why, but anyway. So you can change your behavior, which is what most people are. Well, I guess that's this one down here. Change your behavior that's what most people think you want them to change. But you don't have to necessarily change your behavior. If you change your quality world pictures, then probably your behavior will change. Or you can change your perception of the situation. Is this because, and this is talking about whether this is a big deal for you or whether it's really not that important of a thing for you. So you can change it to how much you are prioritizing it, how much you're letting it rule your life, how much what amount of time you're putting into it. But you can change your perception of it. Is that the way everyone sees it or just you? Okay. Or you can change the need you're trying to meet. For instance, if you're trying to meet the need for love and belonging because you want to play with another kid on the playground and they won't play with you, then you can change whether or not you try to find a different friend and continually try to find someone for love and belonging. Or you can say, what are you really good at? Maybe if you just go start doing something you're really good at, like climbing the jungle gym or something, somebody will come over and start climbing the jungle gym with you. So maybe it would be looking at a different need, your power need. What can you do? Or your freedom need to maybe run in circles or, you know, something like that, and try to get somebody else to run with you. So maybe it's not the need for love and belonging, but it will get met if you look at one of the other needs that you can meet at that moment in time. So there's another piece that helps to change people from their resistance, is to say, I'm not asking you to only change your behavior. I'm saying, look at all the different parts of your life, the ways you perceive things, the way you believe about things, the way other people see things, and you have options, you have choices. So I'm sorry, my little tags are not on the keys, but anyway, there are 4 different keys. You can change any of those and it will help to make your life a little better. So
That's a good analogy.
I was thinking, I just ran across some reading yesterday about, and before we go, Vicky, if you or anybody at all would just maybe 1 minute mentioning about Jeanette McDaniel. Okay.
You can
Yeah.
go ahead and do that now if you like.
So that got me thinking about things, and I read or saw something else too about family members holding on. Isn't there anything you can do to give us just another 2 or 3 days of our loved one's life?
yeah,
You know, when the person is, we have that picture, going through suffering and discomfort, and they're ready to go. And so I was thinking, Ron, another form or category of resistant clients or people would be those family members unwilling to kind of give up hope or holding on to in the face of absolute reality, there too. And them looking to you, and yet you're a hopeful person, a scriptural person, but a reality therapist too, a realist too. How you might deal with those resistant people.
Mhm. I spend a lot of time in talking about what they remember about the person and what particular things were uplifting. What did the individual accomplish in their life?
Yeah.
How do these things relate to you?
Mhm.
These kinds of things.
Yeah.
I'm I'm sorry I was late getting on, but I had to reload Zoom and all that, and I've had 2 hospitalizations this last month, so it's crazy. I got another surgery coming up next Thursday, a hernia. All these things seem to compile at the as you get older and you wear things out in your body. But anyway, that's just part of life. But I do a lot of counseling now with people nearing the end of their life. I don't know how that happened, but that's the way it happens, particularly when you're a pastor in a 6,000 member church. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question, but it certainly it increases the love that the individual has for the individual and all they remember, and then they can start applying some of these positives to their own life. And how are you affecting other people? What are you doing? And are they are they looking to you for assistance and uplifting grace, this sort of thing? So anyway, I really have appreciated this corner. It's been great. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, mentioning this corner, before we go, I do want to mention that our very own Steve Hammond has the next month in October. I think it's the 24th at 12 noon. He's going to be discussing some reality therapy compatible methods that he has found useful in empowering students to solve personal conflicts, resulting in win-win solutions. So I look forward to that. I know Wendell wanted to discuss, it was her name McDaniel, Jeanette McDaniel.
Mhm.
Did
She-
Jeanette pass away? I didn't
She's
know.
in hospice care.
Okay.
No, in hospice.
Right. So
And
I
then
think, Wendell,
her
you've
son-
sent the address, and I think Kim Olver and a couple others have posted in various places her son. If you have pictures or information to please send to her son. So Wendell, can you post that in the chat room before we go?
I can, Ron, you have it in an email that's
Oh,
in the
that's true.
70 with the 75 other ones you got yesterday.
Oh boy.
That's okay.
And then I want to remind everyone that July 2024,
And Ron knows Bill Lawrence.
Yeah.
okay, Bill Lawrence, yeah. I wanted to remind everyone to put it on your calendar now for July 3rd, 2024 through the 6th is our international conference in Chicago, Illinois at the Palmer House. It's contracts have been signed. People we're on our way. Calls for presentations will be out in a month or two. Marketing is being done right now. So we are going to be getting a lot of stuff out in the next couple of weeks. So please put that on your calendars. It's going to be phenomenal conference. So next month, Steve Hammond. And just a reminder that we do take the month of December off because it falls in between Christmas and New Year's. So I'll have November's presenter next month when October shows. I'm glad you're all here. Well, I want to thank Nancy for doing an amazing job. Really enjoyed the session. Does anyone have any last comments they want to make before we stop the recording?
Thank you, Nancy. It's great to hear.
Thank you, Nance.
Yep.
Welcome.
And thanks to Steve Hammond for that marvelous poem that he recently wrote about I see you in my life, in my actions, in my own genetics. Every other person is a part of my life.
Mhm.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank
Yeah, I saw that too. I was touched by that also.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop